the future of technology, predictions and concerns. The three guys can discuss their thoughts on where technology is headed, the advancements that they're excited about, and any potential concerns that they have about and the impact of technology on society.
This is the Buffalo Community Podcast, all about the greatest small town in the USA, the people in it, and how it all works together. Here are your hosts, Tyler Reese and Mark Benzer.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Community Podcast. We're actually going to have a mystery guest coming in here right now, in compliments of ChatGPT. I don't think they're not really giving us anything, but we thought, hey, this will be kind of an interesting topic. But what we're going to simply do, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to add this to it. I'm going to screen record the question in here, and it might not ever make it here, but we're going to prompt ChatGPT to give us a topic that three dudes can talk about. And we'll only play this if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Give me a topic for a podcast episode that three guys can talk about. All right. If you haven't used ChatGPT, it's pretty cool, I think. It's simple. Give us a prompt. It's thinking right now.
Tell me about it. Like, what is it? I've heard the term, and I guess I kind of know what AI is, but like,
sure. ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence that I would classify it as something that I would say organizes information very, very quickly, and it will help you organize stuff. And it can, I guess it, I don't want to say it thinks, but it can compile a bunch of information very quickly, and it does things like perfectly. Like I've had it help, hey, rewrite this email, and it would make it flow a little bit better.
Okay.
So I'd type in what I said, and it'll make it just a little bit better. So I think that's how I use it. But there's a lot of cool things that are happening behind it, but I think a lot of things that are just people are like, you kind of almost have to be careful of what type of information you consume. Is this a real person? Is this a real advertisement? Is it, whatever? What do you know about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hot button topic right now, obviously, kind of in many spaces, and specifically in my space, in the creative space, a lot of artists are concerned because ChatGPT or these AI bots are creating art, but they don't make anything new. What they do is they take bits of creation that's already been made, and they basically compile something into something that looks really great usually. But they're taking pieces from art that's already out there because it can't generate anything on its own.
Right.
And so it's taking styles, it's taking a lot of different pieces. And so there's definitely some, questions about what's going on in the creative space with AI and whether it's good or healthy or positive. So it's really interesting. But for all, we're using it for right now is all intensive purposes. It's a really smart search engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which it's really good at that.
Yeah. So it gave us two. I'm going to revert back to the one that prompted us to do this, but the one it just gave me was, the title would be Life on the Edge, Exploring Extreme Sports and Their Impact on Mindsets. I thought, oh, okay. Well, it gave us a topic. In this podcast episode, three guys will delve into the thrilling world of extreme sports, discussing their experiences, couch surfing,
minimal,
the potential physical and mental benefits, and blah, 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 blah. But what prompted us, because I think this is probably more interesting, we can talk about it, is how about the future of technology, predictions and concerns. The three guys can discuss their thoughts on where technology is headed, the advancements that they're excited about, and any potential concerns that they have about and the impact of technology on society. I think that's a much better topic, and you just started.
And you just started the topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't need that thing.
Actually, that was Luke's Chat GPT prompt about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
You are welcome.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think you're exactly. If you haven't been playing with it at all, I mean, some of the high level things that they say it could eliminate is call them like junior clerks of people reading documents and, typographical errors,
Sure.
editors, attorneys or law review.
Yeah.
Like you could write a contract potentially. But when I look at that, I think there's going to be some liability of, all right, who's the ultimate liable person here? So the more people lean into artificial intelligence is it the person who developed the software? Is it the person who gave the prompt? Is it the person who passed along that? So I think there's a lot of liability out there of what could happen. Is this actual information that was developed by a human or was it artificially given?
Right.
And I think mostly specifically as far as truth in advertisements, inside the real estate world of, is that accurate information that actually complies with fair housing laws, stuff like that? Or are people just simply taking a shortcut, copy and pasting and never double checking their work?
That's why I think the liability would come back on the person using it, right? Use it at your own risk. If you're going to if you're going to have this thing write up a legal contract for you and you're comfortable enough using it, something in the contract is wrong or that's on you for just trusting it, right? Like you didn't hire an attorney, you didn't hire, So I guess that's kind of where I go. I think for some reason my mind went right to like, when you get the scam email that looks like it's from UPS and it's poor English. Like to me, this is a tool for scammers. It's a tool for like all good things. There's an equally bad thing or a worse bad thing. Mm-hmm. But to me, this is that if you're a scammer, that solves that problem. You type in your broken English email that you can pretty much identify, hey, this is not legit. And so I would imagine those types of emails will be gone. Like we just won't see them very much anymore now that this technology exists.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make it a lot easier to do some of those things. And the part that interests me is I think I heard Elon Musk talk about this at one point where he's saying eventually when you get far enough down the road where technology has advanced so much, you're going to have like a universal basic income because there's just not going to be those entry-level jobs. It's all going to be automated. It's all going to be replaced by AI, but by technology. And so, what does that mean for the workforce? What does that mean for people that don't have special traits or skills that they can use? They're going to have to go out and get them, or there's going to have to be some kind of solution because there's just going to be much less jobs out there. It's kind of interesting to look at that, and just think of what the world would look like down the road, because there's some of that we're probably being held back by wanting to be able to help people and wanting to be able to have those people that work for us or that work for these companies, which is, I don't know, because they're going to save money by doing that.
Right.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, is to make as much profit as possible for these companies.
Yeah. Now, whether that's good or bad, that's to be debated otherwise. I asked it the other day. It was based on consumer data, and I'm just playing around with it. I fully do my job. Let's let that be known.
Yeah, for sure.
I do know these statistics, but I was very curious. I said, based on consumer data, what are the next 100 homes that are most likely to sell in Wright County? Now, give me an answer of such. I don't have access to consumer data, which I don't believe. I believe that there's probably, there's so many things like Facebook, I don't say that quite out loud because we're streaming on it right now, that they're collecting that information. Apple kind of got, advertising companies didn't like that. Apple said, we want to protect those certain algorithms that protect our customers' privacy. And I think that's going to come into play in the future of advertising is going to look way different in the future. And I almost think it's going to be more, you're going to have to be able to connect with people on such an emotional different way, or even just like, let's just say our jobs, you know, you're going to have that brand following if you want to do much business. Because the big guys, the normal widget sellers, they're just going to input already collected consumer data, which we put in, you know, every time you put your email in somewhere, you use a credit card, you know, now with the G coin coming out of the government, they're going to know your spending habits and who are you most likely to, you know, purchase from, where I think is that to me is a little bit scary, where you're now trackable and they could basically tell you what you're going to do before you even realize you're going to do it based on billions of pieces of data.
And then the location with your cell phone in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
You're driving by this business every single day.
Yeah.
Let's hammer this person with advertising.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're in their drive-through.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like, the amount of information that I don't think we're even, we know it's a lot. And we still aren't aware of how much. Right. We know it's a lot, but it's so much more.
Yep. But there's other aspects of it too, like Adobe Podcast. Like, have you heard that at all? So now, I mean, it takes really
taking my job.
Finally, no. I think we make a "Let's Fire Luke" joke maybe once every 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's really good. I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, when you fire, you don't have to get paid.
Right.
But you know, I mean, some of those quality things, I mean, it can clean up picture resolution, audio resolution, that makes it sound as good as Luke is making it sound right now. So, I mean, there's some good aspects to it that it's like, oh, that made that job 1,000% easier. Now people take the initiative of actually doing it themselves. I do think there's still going to come down to an element of you still have to go out and do stuff. You know, you have to be productive for your own, I guess, even I'll say mental health, because I think if you don't stand for anything, I think it could be very dangerous the more AI is implemented, because now there's not a use for you. You don't feel like you have purpose.
Right.
You know, and I think if on a population that's already mentally strained with mental health issues, I think that could be a really dangerous part of the more it's implemented and contribution to society. I think that can really have a damaging effect on somebody's psyche.
That's what terrifies me, right? And not to get political in any way, and maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but like the universal basic income, right? Like we get to that point where jobs are gone and we're just kind of collecting a check. What gets us out of bed every day? What to your point on mental health and purpose, I guess that's hard to, and maybe our purpose right now is too attached to our profession. So, maybe there is some area for improvement in terms of like, that's Mark, he's an insurance agent. I'd rather that's Mark, he's a good guy, a good dad, a good, so I don't necessarily strive to, but as to say that, it's like, well, no, I do strive to be known as because that helps me be successful in my job. Right. But
see, I find like this is interesting because it gets into kind of your personal beliefs about humans. I believe that humans are built to work. Yeah, not that's the only thing important in our lives, but I do think that it's a huge piece of what makes us who we are is having a job to do. Whether that's your actual job in your real life, or if it's taking care of your family, like you have responsibilities, and that's part of what makes you human. Not makes you human, but what makes you a person. So there's aspects of that are just missing. So the need to work goes away, and then all of a sudden, we're just missing that. And so what do you fill it with? I don't know. That's the part that gets me. Like, we get the paycheck, and then does everyone just go, paint on canvases, go be an artist? Like, what do you do? You follow your passions.
Right. But in a lot of times, passions, for as good as they are, maybe don't put food on the table. We kind of had a pre-conversation about this, and I think one of the highest paid skills in the future is going to be the ability to connect with another human, to make that connection and communicate effectively. I think that's going to be one of the highest paid skills, because it comes to, let's rewind to just the small amount of time seemed like forever, the COVID, the shutdown, how everybody yearned for that human touch.
Yeah.
I want to go shake a hand. Now look how awful that felt. I know I felt, I'm like, I just want to be out fraternizing with people. I rarely use that word. That was tough to say. But that human connection, almost everybody, that's what I think they most remember about that. I think. So I do think the ability to connect with people in the future is going to be a very highly paid skill, the more AI is implemented in our daily lives.
I think that's applicable across industry as well, because even just within, so I just speak from what I know, which is kind of the creative industry with cameras and stuff like that. Going from the old DSLR days where you had to single point focus, you had to do a lot of the work with ISO and your exposure triangle and making sure everything looked good. And now with technology the way it is, you can flip a camera, one of the newer cameras, you can flip it in auto and you can get a much better result than a lot of cameras could, way back in the day when you had them tuned to their best.
Even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah. And so what separates you as a creator, as a photographer, as a videographer, when anyone can just pick up a camera and hit record and it's all the same quality, and it's that human piece. How can you connect with the viewer? How can you connect with someone who's looking at your photos? How do you tell a story?
Yeah.
That's something that you can't just get by picking up something that can do amazing things. And that's, like you said, I think that's the piece that people are going to be looking for when that technology is widely spread.
Which the dangerous part about that, I think, is people just go in for likes. And, I think there's danger in that too. I mean, you have to have some inner peace with yourself of what you're doing. So I think I think it's dangerous, just mental health wise, because if you're just going for that, I'm only doing this for money. Jim Carrey said it really amazing. I heard this in a book. It was The Way You Think About Money. They quoted Jim Carrey. I think that's what it was. Jim Carrey said, "I wish everybody could become insanely rich and famous at least once in their life, so they'll realize that's not what it's all about." And I thought, okay, well, that's way easier for you to say as a rich and famous person. But, I don't think he's been bashful about, kind of being critical on the Hollywood scene or anything like that. But finding that passion inside the things you have to do into the things you want to do, and just kind of make that connection with the most important people of your life.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think too, it's interesting that I think people will always want relationships with people. And I think for the last 20 or maybe even 30 years, we've feared that insurance agents were going to be replaced by computers. Real estate agents were going to be replaced. There's all these, we've had this fear of it's coming. And I've actually kind of gotten off those tracks and said it could happen, but I'm not as worried about it, because I do think there is always going to be a demand for a relationship. Not everybody's going to value a human relationship, but so I don't think computers have replaced people to the same extent. I mean, obviously it's happened at a large scale, but I don't think it's happened at the same rate or scale that people worried about when this technology snowball started growing. And it's not going to stop growing. It will affect people. It will affect jobs and incomes, but I think we always worry a little bit more than we need to. But time will tell.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, this is a fascinating topic. I think this is great, and I'm curious to see what other people think. I would kind of go down to just that connection with human nature. Is I thought of this. I mean, your inner circle. Think about your wife and your children.
Yeah.
Like, and to me, that's like the most important people in my life. And people are like, what about your mom and dad? They are, but to me, I mean, and I've talked to them about this. They're in that next little circle.
Yeah.
Is I think you really need to get down into the smallest circle of the very most important people in your life. And if you can take care of that, it starts with yourself, and then that sounds selfish, but I think you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. If you can take care of that smallest little circle, anything that happens outside of that doesn't really matter, and it should solve all the world's problems. And if you can only think on just a minor level of taking care of the smallest amount of people in your life,
and everybody's doing it,
and stop acting like you're more special than you are. Because I think we, as a human population, we have a problem with that. Is whatever, I mean, everybody else should care about me, but I think you'd be very surprised at how many people don't. Mm-hmm. Myself included, how many people don't think about you or think about you, Luke, or think about myself. Just think about that. So I think it's, if you can narrow it down, you won't have to worry about this AI. That's my thought.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank AI for giving us the script for this podcast.
And pushing this out to millions of people.
Yeah, right. So cool. Time will tell. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. For the Buffalo Community Podcast, I'm Tyler Reese.
I'm Mark Benzer.
Luke Edlin.
And I'm ChatGPT.
Thanks for listening to the Buffalo Community Podcast, produced by Edlin Media. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube, as well as anywhere you listen to podcasts.